Okay, everybody, welcome back, and this is it. This is the week where we finish up our game, we polish it off, and make it the very best that we can. So, what exactly does that entail? Well, today we'll be making it so that my little Mega Man character here can pick up this key, and when he has the key and reaches the door, it will end the game with some sort of a victory screen. We'll also try to make it so that if we lose all of our health, we get a game over screen, and that'll be it. So first, let's go make our screens that are going to pop up when we achieve victory or fail. I'm going to make a custom piece of artwork that will cover exactly my screen. So my stage size here, let's go take a quick look at it, is 1000 pixels wide by 550 pixels high. Now, you don't have to create custom artwork for this. You could go grab an image off of Google Images and grow it or shrink it or scale it to make it work, but creating your own really isn't too hard. So let me show you how to do it. First, I'll open up Photoshop, then I'll go to File and New. Now you can see the pixels for the last image I was working on definitely aren't what we want here. So I'm going to change this to, I believe we said 1000 wide by 550 high. This isn't the most outstanding resolution ever. Industry standard for graphic design would be 300 pixels per inch, but for our game, since we're kind of using pixel art and pretty basic sprites, I don't see any reason to make this file size incredibly large by cranking up the resolution. So we're going to keep it at 72, that'll do just fine. And I'll call this simply Victory. Alright, so here is my blank background. This is my victory screen. Nothing much to see here right now. I might as well put some color in the background. An easy way to fill this whole layer with a color is to come down below our layer menu and click on this little circular icon here. And then I could click on solid color, and I can simply pick whatever color I want the background of this screen to be. If a solid color is a little too simple and you want to do something more, you could go with a gradient, and you could have this fade from one color to another. If you want to change your gradient, you can double click on this little bar right here, and it will open the gradient editor. You can pick from some different preset gradients, or if you kind of like the idea of a gradient, but you want to change the colors, like maybe I kind of like this 3-color fade, but I want it to be all different shades of blue, going from like really dark to a somewhat brighter blue, and then I want this one here to be much lighter. Or let's say I want to take something like this and mix it up even more. I can click below the bar and create a new box. And let's say I wanted to put kind of like a highlight, like a flash of light going across right here. I'll put it in a much lighter blue, almost white. And now you can see I've got kind of an interesting background. There's a lot that you can do. There's literally limitless ways that you could make a variation on these gradients. You can also change the angle on which the gradient is cast. So tons and tons of things that you can do. Lots of ways you can customize your gradient. Play around with it if you want to get a quick custom background and find something you like. I could bring in an image here or add some text. Text is very simple. I can simply go click on the text tool down here. I can click and drag to create a text box. I can also grab it from the corner to resize it after I've created it. I'll just go with something simple like game over. This color here is pretty boring. Let's go with a more traditional game over color, something like a dark red. Let's see how that looks. I'm just going to take my selection tool and click off. That might be a little bit darker red than I was going for, but it works, it shows up. Or if I want an image to go along with this, I could go and I could grab a sprite sheet for Mega Man, and I can try to find a sprite on here where Mega Man's not doing so well. And that might be fitting, so I'll just bring this in real quick. You can see it's got a transparent background. Now, obviously, I don't want everything here, but I will place this, and then maybe I'll select this one here where Mega Man looks like he's kind of tired or weak. And now I could simply copy and paste this. Go back to my regular grab tool here. I can pull him out, and then I can just turn off, or I could delete this layer that has all of them. He looks quite small here, so I'm going to scale this real quick. I'm going to hold down Shift so that he doesn't get too stretched out. Just larger, but not stretched. And unfortunately, he's going to be a little bit pixelated, again, because we don't have the highest resolution. There's ways that you could fix this, or go back and repaint it and make it look better, but for a quick demonstration, I think this will do okay. You can see what Photoshop's capable of here. So I'm going to really quickly go and save as. I could do this as a PNG or a JPEG. I'll probably do this as a JPEG because it should be a little bit smaller and upload faster and take up less space in our game, which is a good thing. So I'll just go ahead and hit save. If this ends up being a little bit too big, I could always compress this down to a smaller file. Maybe I'll put this down to medium. And there you can see on my desktop is my victory JPEG. And to get this into Snap, all I want to do is go to my stage and then go to the backgrounds, which you'll notice I don't have a background yet, and actually it's not a bad idea to make or find a better background, something a little more exciting. It'd be pretty easy to do. You could even just add a gradient that doesn't have any text on it. So there's my game over background. I don't really want that showing right now, so I'll just select empty for the moment. But you can see it does fit the screen nicely. Oh, and you know what? I said I was going to do a victory screen, and I did a game over screen. So let's control click this and rename it real quick. Game over. And OK. And now let's go back into Photoshop. We were going to do them both anyhow. Let's make our victory screen. And there's an easy way that I could even take what I already have and just kind of keep this going. I'm going to turn off the weak-looking Mega Man. I'm going to take my text tool and click on my game over text. And I'll change this to something classic like you win. Let's make this text color a little more cheerful. I'll go with like a bright orange color. And if we want to, we can keep with our sprite sheet here, and we can go find a happier or more successful looking Mega Man that we can kind of blow up for this. Mid-Jump Mega Man is a classic and looks kind of celebratory, so let's take that. So I'll make sure that I have my sprite layer selected, and then I'll go Command-C to copy and Command-V to paste. Turn off the larger sprite sheet, and then I will move Mega Man over here. I'm hitting Command-T to scale him, and then I'm holding down Shift so that I can scale without stretching. And now we've got a victory screen. You could go back and you could edit this gradient if you want to change it even more. But I'm okay with this as it is, and I'm going to hit Save As. Make sure once again that this is a JPEG. I'm just going to call this Victory for Real, since last time I made Victory, but it was actually game over. So for real, this is our victory screen this time. All right, and we'll bring this in. So now we can switch between our game over and our victory screen and our empty background. So let's work on triggering our victory screen. But to do that, we first need to make the key collectible and the door know that if the player has the key, it's going to end the game in a victory screen. So let's just start with the key. And we will simply tell the key in a script that when it senses that it is touching, and we're looking for the sprite named player. So when touching player, I'm going to create a new variable that this key is going to control. So let's make the variable, and I'm going to call this something like gotKey, and hit OK. I'll leave gotKey on up here so that you can see it. Let me turn off my life count from last time. So here's our gotKey counter. Or really, this is going to act more like a switch. Because if we have the key, we're going to change it to 1. And if we don't have the key, it's going to remain at 0. So first, let me initialize this with a when flag clicked. So when the game starts, we'll go to our variable and we will set gotKey to 0 to make sure that every time that we restart this level from the beginning, we don't have the key collected. And then I will set gotKey to 1 as soon as the player touches the key. And I don't want the key to stay there. Visually, that wouldn't make a lot of sense to the player. So let's go ahead and then go to looks, and we will simply hide this. Now looking at that, I realize that if I'm hiding it, when I restart the game, I also need to show it. So when we start the game, we'll make sure that we don't have the key, but that it shows back up. Let's go give that a test play. All right, you can see the variable on screen, gotKey, has changed to 1, and you can also see that the key has disappeared from the screen. However, the door doesn't really care whether or not we have the key. It doesn't have any code, so it doesn't know how to respond. So now that we have the key, I'll put myself over here, and let's pause this for a second and go look at the door. All right, so the door is going to do something when Mega Man touches it and when Mega Man also has the key. So let's go to Control and say when sensing touching the player. Then we need to go back into our control and say if. Let's go to our variables and bring out gotKey. We need an operator now because we're going to check if gotKey is equal to 1. So if got key is equal to 1, meaning we've picked up the key, and the door and the player are touching, then let's do something easy like this. We will broadcast, and we don't have any messages yet, so when I click on the arrow for broadcast, I'm going to click on new, and I will call this victory. We will broadcast victory. Now, that still won't really do much because there's nothing in the game that knows what to do with the message of victory. So let's go to our stage, and we'll go to our scripts in our stage, and we will say when I receive, and this is the easy way to use a message. When I receive victory, then we will go to looks, and we will use a switch to costume, and we'll pick victory for real. Now, you can see I've got that on the screen right now. Let's do a little initializing here, and let's say, and you know what, instead of building this from scratch, let's go ahead and duplicate this, because it's really the same thing. So what I want to do is I want to say that when the game starts, we shouldn't use the victory screen. We should use a different screen. But we need to tell it when the game starts. So let's do this. We'll bring out a when, green flag clicked, when the game starts. We will broadcast, and here's our new message. A new message, we'll just call this game start. So when I receive game start, it will go to empty. Or hopefully you take the time to create a custom background or find a cool background online and you can tell it to use that when the game starts. So when we start the game, we've got our plain background. We do a little platforming. It's a good thing I put that health potion in here. I've got my key. You can see the variable is tracking it. And we go back to the door, and we get the victory screen. So we have the victory screen, but the game is still playable, and the victory screen isn't really covering anything. So we could still improve this a little bit. So the easiest fix for this would be to go to our scripts, and we can also say that after we play our victory screen, we can go to control, and we can just put a quick stop all. And that will kind of freeze the game after we've completed it. So this time, after getting the key, and trying not to die to my own game, we touch the door, we get the victory screen, and the game freezes. This feels pretty good. If you wanted to, you could also tell all of these other sprites to hide so that you get a cleaner victory screen where you don't see the whole level. Alternatively, it could be easier, instead of putting your victory screen and your game over screen as backgrounds, you could just put them as sprites, which in some ways is a little sloppier, but it would very easily let you put them in front of all the other sprites when the victory screen pops up. So there's a few small variations you could do on this, but this is how it basically functions. You may notice that when you reset your game, it's important to actually stop it before clicking the green flag again, or some of your changes won't reset and initialize. So we've got our key collectible, we have our door giving us a victory screen. All we need to do now is make it so that when we take too much damage, we get a game over screen, which, knowing what we already know, should be pretty easy to accomplish. So let's go take a look at our health bar and the scripts on it. Whenever we take damage, our life count drops until eventually it reaches 0. Now really, this code that I'm about to write, you could write almost anywhere in the game, but I'll put it on the health bar just so that you can sort of, just to help you visualize how this works. Now, there's a few ways we could do this. We could simply say that we could just constantly check where our life is at on a new script, and we could say that when life is equal to 0, that we stop everything and we put up the game over screen. But we're kind of already doing that here. So we already have an if life count equals 0. Well, we switch the HP count to 0, and then we can just, in addition to that, say that we are going to in addition to that, say that we are going to broadcast a new message. So new message, and we'll call this one game over. Hit OK there. So we've broadcast game over, but we still need our stage to know what to do with the backgrounds when the game over happens. So we initialize the game start screen. We have a victory screen when we get to the door with the key. Now, I'll simply duplicate this and I'll say, when game over, switch to screen game over. So we'll set this to broadcast game over. Then when we go to our stage, we'll make sure that when I receive game over, we switch to costume game over, and then we'll run our stop all. Let's give that a test. Time to go stand on some spikes. There we go. I've lost all my health. There's the game over screen, and the game has stopped. I've lost control of it because the game is over. So that's really all there is to it. I would love it if you guys made yours look a little bit prettier than mine and went and got a cool background to put in there. Again, that would be actually a really good excuse to go into Photoshop and experiment, and it's a really good way to set the theme of your game. If it's a fantasy game, make a fantastical background. If it's a sci-fi game, make a cool cyberpunk city that you're platforming around in, right? There's a lot that you can do with the background to make your game more interesting and more expressive. So this should cover everything on your rubric that needs to be in your game. If you've accomplished everything that we've gone over in these videos, you should feel confident that you're going to get a great grade on your final project, and then you can take it easy. Keep in mind, if you're passionate about game design, or even if you've just been having fun working on these projects, there's nothing to stop you from continuing to experiment with Snap, or you can even go and find Unity on your computers and see what you can get done in there. So don't feel that just because the semester is over and you've done everything that I asked you to do on the game, that there's not something more that you can do to get better at game design. So keep playing, keep experimenting, and good luck and have fun.